Well, good day, afternoon, whatever it is. I am here with Mr. Ryan Pesch. He is an educator in Extension. Ryan, tell us who you are and what you do.
My name's Ryan Pesch. I'm an extension educator. I live here in Otter Tail County, and I kind of work throughout west central Minnesota in community economic development.
Okay, great. Very good, very good. And we should note that you also farm. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Besides my day job, I'm also a market gardener. So for the last 13 years that I've been here in Otter Tail County, I've sold at farmers markets. I've operated a CSA. I do a couple farm stands. So I have that other life as well. So I sometimes get asked to dabble in some commercial hort kind of things.
Very good, very good. Well, I appreciate you making the time to talk with me a little bit today. And we are looking at a report that came out a little bit later last year in 2015 called Financial Benchmarks and Economic Impact of Local Food Operations. So what was this study? What were you looking at here?
Well, we're looking at two things. One is there isn't a lot of data for small-scale vegetable operations in the state of Minnesota. Okay. I think it's a common question. People are interested in raising produce commercially for fresh market, and they say, well, what does that even look like? You know, what could I make on a per acre basis? What would be my expenses? And then also this question often comes up that a lot of communities see, kind of local foods and growing local growers as a way of doing economic development and doing community development. And so the other question was, what kind of economic spillover do these small farms have in those communities?
All right. So, Ryan, in terms of net farm income on a per acre basis, what were you looking at there from these farms?
Yeah, there's two things in the report. We calculated two different ways. One is net cash farm income, which is, again, we're taking the gross sales, we're subtracting out those cash expenses from 2014. And that ended up being about $4,200 per acre.
Okay.
And then we have kind of net farm income, which also takes into consideration depreciation. Sure. So that actually takes us down to about $2,200 per acre.
Okay.
And certainly another part of the whole equation is this issue about labor too.
Right.
I will admit that very few of our study participants had really good records on the time they're spending on doing produce.
Sure.
However, for people's best estimates, we kind of walk through a process of estimating out that time. And, it sounds kind of good when we talk about net cash income and gross sales, but when we start doing an estimate of people's return per hour, it gets kind of depressing.
Sure.
Our findings were that people made an average of $4.71 per hour, so that I think it's an average of nearly about 1,000 hours per acre spent over the course of the season.
Okay. And
that includes marketing time and harvest time, planting, planning, all that. So.
Right. Well, what about, so you kind of broke it out also between the less profitable farms versus the more profitable farms. Any kind of characteristics that you noticed between those different profitability levels in the farms?
One observation I have is that people that are able to juggle what I call multiple marketing channels seem to be more profitable. So that is, for example, you could raise produce and sell it at one farmer's market.
Sure.
In this instance, you have one market channel, one outlet. Yep. I always think that you have one chance to sell everything that you raise. You spent the time and energy to raise a pepper. If you don't sell it at that one market, what you're going to do with it?
Right.
It seems like it's more complicated, but those people that do CSA plus one or two farmers markets plus a farm stand, they mix these market channels, have a better opportunity to do more sales per acre, it seems. Sure. It also seems that those that had other enterprises were more profitable as well. So people were combining produce together with other livestock enterprises or other farm enterprises.
Okay.
That mix of ways of making money off the farm, those were also more profitable.
So adding some diversity in terms of what you're growing and selling, as well as your market, seems to work a little bit better in these farms.
Yes.
Okay, great. Let's see. So, I mean, that kind of points to some improvements that some of these farms might consider in terms of changes to make on their farm. You know, what they might do to become more profitable. Any other kind of recommendations that you've seen in terms of this study, or just general thoughts for small farm profitability?
Yeah. One thing that leapt out was this issue about some of the things that are in the categories of marketing costs are actually pretty high.
Mm-hmm.
So auto and truck expense that you'd have on a Schedule F for a lot of these operators is fairly high, and it's related to driving produce around.
Sure.
And so actually we're looking at this in this next year's study with participants. We're trying to get down to everybody's exact marketing costs for each outlet that they sell to.
Okay.
It seems key to pick good marketing outlets that
Right.
make sure that you're not spending time at a very kind of an unprofitable farmer's market, or you're spending a lot of time, energy just driving things around, and you're not getting a lot of sales from that same
Sure.
outlet.
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing to be very, very conscious of.
Yeah. One other thing I think I saw in the report was, some of the farmers kind of actually reported back that, they found that once they kind of were able to develop some kind of focus, I mean, certainly we want some diversity in crops, but once they were kind of able to find some focus in what they're growing, it seemed to work a little bit better for them. Is that an accurate description of what one of those farmers was saying?
Yep, absolutely. There are more than a few farmers that, even after looking at these numbers and by their past experience, were saying, hey, I am much better off specializing, even at the outlets that I'm currently selling at, in doing those things well,
Sure.
and driving myself crazy with products that don't sell, or that I don't have a market for, or I can't do well.
Right.
No, I mean, just take the pick. If you can't grow lettuce well, and you're in competition in the farmer's market or in the market in general, and other people are growing it way better,
Right.
You're probably not going to sell that much. So that's the thing.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Anything else that you'd want to mention regarding the report, or what happened, and we can talk about how the study is moving now, beyond that initial report as well.
Yeah. We're now going into collecting people's 2015 data and doing a similar benchmark report.
Okay.
We're not redoing the economic impact part because we don't think the results would be that different.
Okay.
So we haven't broken out the central region of the state just yet, but my own take is I do think that since there isn't a lot of good data for operations, and again, all these operations were 6 acres and under.
Yep.
Right. So that covers a lot of our commercial horticulture operations that are fairly small.
Yep.
And they're looking for some data. I think that's the big thing. The big takeaway is I want people, since there isn't a lot of data, to just, even if they're not in the central region, it may not be the right comparison, it's still a comparison that people can use.
Yeah.
That if they're a small scale vegetable operator, take these numbers and just see how you compare.
Yeah.
And just sort of think through your own operation. Am I high or low on this expense compared to these people? Why is that? Maybe that's a way that you could be a little more profitable this year than you were the year before. Okay. That's how I'd like to see people use it. And I think that's the big takeaway for the report.
Great. Well, thanks, Ryan. I think that's all I need to cover with you today. I hope that we can have some other conversations in the future, but again, thanks a lot, and thanks for doing this project.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Jake.
All right.